Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hanging at the Hangar Bar. This is Candice, and you've got me on a solo episode today. Today, we are diving into what it's really like to be a travel professional who specializes in a number of things, but specifically all things Disney. From booking those magical trips to keeping up with the ever changing park policies, technology, all of those other things. I have been traveling, well, I've been planning travel for 13 years now. And my personal connection was I actually got started in the business because of Disney. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm also going to share some myths versus realities, some tips, some funny stories, and just share a little bit about what that process is like, why I do it, why I continue to do it after this long, and some of the things that I've learned about planning travel and about myself. So let's dive right in and get started.
Hey, welcome to Hanging at the Hangar Bar. I'm Scott.
And I'm Candice. We're here to chat all things Disney as child-free Disney adults. Stories, snacks, and a little magic along the way.
Grab a drink and get comfy and come hang out with us.
Okay, so my origin story. I feel like I need the Marvel music to key my origin story, but I digress. I got started in travel planning when we came back from a Disney vacation, and I was speaking with a friend of mine about the process of, everything that we did to put the trip together, how well everything turned out, all of these things. But I did tell her that, it took a lot of time and I had to do a lot of research. And something in it just kind of sparked imagination, if you will. And I told her, I'm like, you know what? The perfect job for me would be to help other folks plan their Disney vacation. Up to that point, I thought being a quote unquote travel agent, which in my opinion, there's a difference between a travel designer and a travel agent. We might get into that, we might not. But I told my friend that the ideal job for me, because it dealt with Disney, deals with travel, which I love, all of these things would be to plan Disney travel for folks. And I didn't know that that was actually a thing. I chose Disney specifically because of my attachment to the brand, to my love of the brand, and and this has evolved over time as I've learned more about the brand and not just about what you see, but because the brands strive for perfection and excellence matches up very much with my own. So my friend actually did a bit of research and found a travel company that was accepting applications for contractor agents to specialize in Disney. I reached out to them, filled out an application. We went through a brief screening process and an interview and that kind of thing. And they let me sign on with them. They did provide training. Disney does provide their own very specific training. They teach you what they want you to know. And it is a continuous education sort of thing. So they do change their curriculum at least once a year, depending on how things change within the company. And before you can take advantage of any of their benefits or any of that they do offer to travel professionals, they do require you to be caught up on your training, which I really appreciate because there's a lot of companies that deal with travel and destinations and that kind of thing that doesn't happen. So I did my training, all of that sort of thing, got everything passed. And then it was just a matter of really building my own business. The agency that I was contracted with didn't provide any leads or anything like that. So it's been from square one the entire way through my journey. A couple months after I started with them, I was in a Facebook group talking with some other travel professionals, and I met a lady by the name of Jane Ellen. We talked a little bit more, and she said, I would be interested in working with you, not from a training or not from a travel standpoint, like planning her travel, but she owned what they call a host agency, which is a an agency that hires contractor agents, and they provide some of the business expenses like errors and omissions insurance, some of those other things that can be quite costly. The host agency provides those for the agent, and then the agent in turn earns commission from the host agency, and the host agency keeps a percentage of that. So that's how that all started. So I talked to her a little bit more and decided that, yeah, I would like to work with this person. And so I did move my contract from the initial agency that I was with, which, truth be told, I never really felt like I mattered very much. I felt like I was a number, one of hundreds, actually. So there wasn't a lot of support and a lot of reinforcement on what I was doing or anything like that. Not that I need a ton of that, but when you're just starting out, it's nice to know that you're doing a good job. So I moved over to her agency and worked with her for a good 10 years. Slowly, I evolved my niche from Disney to cruises, all inclusive vacations. I did destination weddings for a while, decided quickly that that wasn't for me. I mean, you think there's details involved in a Disney vacation, and that doesn't even scratch the surface. So quickly decided that wasn't for me. And then the grand event of 2020, and when I say grand, I am loading that with sarcasm. 2020 happened, and people stopped traveling because they couldn't. At that time, there was a couple other things going on personally that I didn't feel like I could really focus on travel. So I contacted Jane Ellen and I said, I think I'm going to have to hang this up for now. And she's like, okay, you're welcome back anytime that you want, but, just don't give it up. So things kind of resolved themselves and I got in a better place personally and got some things figured out and decided that I wanted to start up again. So I reached out to Jane Ellen and she said, well, I'm getting ready to retire and I'm turning my agency over to this other person. But she said, you've been doing this for long enough. Why don't you think about starting your own agency? Like, get your tax ID number, get your, you know, industry identification number, those kinds of things that are necessary, and start your own. So I talked to Scott a little bit about it, and I mean, that's something that's always been in the back of my mind as kind of a dream. So we made the decision, and I got everything in line. And then October of 2023, I actually opened my own agency. So I'm no longer working for a host. I actually am a host, and I have three, almost, well, three, soon to be four agents that are working with me as a part of the agency. And it's been great. It's a lot of work, but it's been great. So the first Disney trip I ever planned, I believe it was a personal trip. And I mean, what a better guinea pig to start, right? Because like you can be pretty hard on yourself if something doesn't go right. But at the same time, it's not like you are, if something goes wrong, you're not putting anybody else in the line of disaster. And that sounds dramatic besides yourself. So I think it was a trip for us. I don't remember quite all the details because that's been a very long time. And I've done a lot since then. So, but I am pretty sure it was a personal trip. So the job itself actually has a lot that people maybe wouldn't think about doing. The day-to-day responsibilities as an agency owner are a little bit different than a an agent. Granted, there are some things that both sides of the coin need to keep in mind as far as expenses, that kind of thing. But the main part of it is marketing and finding those clients to say, "Hey, why don't you just let me give you a quote and we'll start there." Following up with those clients to have them say yes and actually get them booked. Taking the deposits, being responsible enough with and developing that trust so that they will give you a credit card information. And all those kind of things. You're dealing with people's money, you're dealing with people's time, It's a lot. It's a big responsibility. Part of what I offer with my agency is called discount monitoring, where if you book a trip with us and then Disney, for example, releases a promotion that positively affects your trip and decreases the cost and offers you more amenities or features or whatever you want to call it, I watch those very closely and I will apply those when it makes a positive difference for my clients. Those are some of my very favorite phone calls I did a couple years ago, and this stands out because this is rare, that I was able to match. I was actually able to beat the price that was offered by Costco by about $1,300, which again, that is very rare. And that's something that definitely goes on my trophy shelf because the client had a great time and I was able to maintain their business. If Okay, so if you want to plan trips with Costco, fine. The thing that I will tell people and that I do tell people when they're comparing apples to apples with Costco versus something that I can put together for them is if they are in the middle of their trip and it is a Saturday night at 7 o'clock, they're going to have to call Costco and they're going to be on hold for a long time. Where with me, and this actually happened in my past, we'll talk about that in a bit, but you pick up the phone or you send me a text and I'll answer and I'll do what I can to help. And it's fine. There's that personal contact, there's personal attention, and I specifically gear everyone's trips according to what their group is looking for. So it's not going to be the same as a trip that I planned a week ago for somebody else that's completely, there are no cookie cutter trips with me. So day to day responsibilities, consultations, bookings, updates, watching for those discounts, expenses, all of those kinds of things go into it. Watching for promotions, social media is a big part of it. Those kinds of things. That's all part of it. Do I work at my travel business every single day? No, I don't. But that's part of the beauty of it is that it's a flexible arrangement. So if I want to, and I have in the past, if I want to work it every day, I can, but I don't have to, which is really lovely. I just have to make my lists and my to-dos and all of those things to make sure that I get done what I need to get done. The type of clients that I work with first-time Disney goers, I work with family groups, I work with people that have been there 100 times. I work with a lot of groups. Last year or earlier this year, I guess, I did a group of 30. And it was a lot because there was lots of different it was a wide age group of folks. There was kids, there was adults, there was older adults. They all kind of wanted to do different things, but it worked out and it was fantastic. So I work with people who have not been on cruises before. I work with people that have been on cruises before. I work with people that have not been on a Disney cruise, but have been on other cruise lines, those kind of things. So it runs the gamut. I've done honeymoons, I've done vow renewals, I've done all kinds of things. Emotionally, there is a bit of emotional labor that somebody normally wouldn't think about maybe with this job. And it differs, in my opinion, from what my agency provides versus your run of the mill. And I use that with the utmost respect, travel agency. When I say that, I mean that I pride myself in managing my client's expectation and helping build that excitement for their trip and kind of manage their meltdowns. So if something doesn't go quite right, I'm there to help pick up the pieces and clean it up and fix whatever I can. And that goes from the moment they book with me to the moment that they arrive at home. And I did have one client that did have to file a claim on their travel insurance, and I was there up until they did receive their settlement from that claim, just to make sure that it went through appropriately. Some of the tools and the resources that I use, Disney does have a website that you do have to register for as a travel professional. There is about 20 some forms that we have to complete to have access to that website. And then I have to make sure that my agents are continuing with their education the continuing education piece of it in order to maintain their access. I also use a lot of experience and a lot of my own research when I'm planning for folks. I've been in it for long enough that I watch very closely as far as if new technology launches, things are shutting down for refurbishment, those kinds of things. I use a lot of the resources that I have, and I'm very upfront with my clients. Like, if this is something on your to-do list, but it's shutting down for refurb, maybe we need to reassess that to-do list. So there's that. As far as staying up to date with changes, as far as Genie Plus, park reservations, promotions, all that kind of thing, I've constantly got my eye everywhere to make sure that I am aware of those things. And most recently, the Eat to the Beat concert series for the Epcot Food and Wine Festival this year was released, the concert schedule. I do have a couple of clients that will be there during that time, and so I made sure they were aware of that schedule. It's just little things like that that add that much more to a trip and think, hey, this person does care if I have a good time. They want me to know this. They're providing me this information. And quite honestly, if whoever you're working with to arrange your Disney trip is not doing that for you, they are doing you a disservice because, as we all know, Disney is a lot. You have a lot of planning to do before you go. You've got a lot of things to keep track of when you're there. And just having somebody in your corner to say, hey, did you think about this? Or what about this? Or you might want to watch the weather because of this. It's all something that is kind of intangible, in my opinion, but very important. So some of the perks of this position, and I'm not even going to call it a job because it doesn't feel like a job. You know, there's the saying that if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. And I absolutely love what I do. Some of the perks are that I get to be sort of in the bubble of Disney all the time. With all the research that I do, with all the news that I read, with all of that. I'm surrounded by Disney all the time, and it's fantastic. Occasionally, there is an opportunity to join in what we call a fam trip, and that's an agent familiarization trip where we go, maybe tour some of the properties, some of those kinds of things. I haven't been able to because I don't really have enough contract agents with me yet to set one of those up for my own agency, but that is something that is on my bucket list to do for them. Also, the training that's provided by Disney is pretty fantastic. They put a lot of time and effort into it, as you would expect. And the best part of this experience is helping to forget or helping create those unforgettable experiences for my clients where they can just go and have a good time and they don't have to stress about anything because it's all taken care of. As long as they're in the right place at the right time, it's going to be great. And like the large family that I was speaking about earlier, the the lead guest on it contacted me when they got home and she's like, that was the best trip we've ever been on. And thank you so much. And I'm like, well, it's my pleasure. That's what I do. That's my thing. That's my jam. So some of the challenges are the constantly changing park policies and technology. When we were going through the pandemic and Walt Disney World required park reservations, that was a little bit stressful. The You can only park hop after 2 o'clock. That was stressful. And the constant updates to technology as far as Genie and FastPass and Lightning Lane and the Lightning Lane Premier and the super expensive packages, but only for, it it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and constantly moving, and I have to be aware of all of that. Handling unrealistic client expectations as far as like, can I write everything in one day? I tell people and I set them up when we're on the initial consultation for the trip, depending on how long they're going to be there. The most I would do for every one of the parks is put down maybe 4 or 5 things, and that's a lot, that they absolutely must do. And keep in mind that we'll do everything that we can to get them to do those must do's, but they're going to have to be patient. They're going to have to work with me a little bit. And anything that they get to do outside of those must do's is frosting on the cake. You could spend a good solid 2 weeks in Disney World and not see and do everything. So, not to sound harsh or anything, but when people come in and say, "Oh, I wanna do it all," there's no possible way. No possible way. Not if you want to. I mean, there's just no way. You could run 24 hours a day and not do and see everything. Time-consuming trip customization. So, yes, to customize a trip like this, it does take time. It does take effort. It takes knowing my clients, knowing what they're looking for, knowing what they're wanting. I also talk about things like food allergies, dietary restrictions and requirements, that kind of thing. Because when I'm making recommendations as far as restaurants, Disney does an absolutely fantastic job of meeting and helping clients work with those restrictions and that kind of thing. But I have to know about them so I don't make a wrong recommendation on a restaurant that may not be able to handle it as well as another. So it is time consuming, but I absolutely love it. And so, yeah, while that may seem as a bit of a challenge, it's just something that I love to do. So it doesn't seem like a challenge at all. Let's talk next about some of the misconceptions that may be in play when you're thinking about, oh, well, you need a travel agent to plan a Disney vacation. And the plain answer to that is yes. So the first one that we're going to talk about is, isn't Disney planning easy with all the apps? Well, no, because you still have to know how everything works. You need to know that if you're moving between park to park for a dining reservation, say, for example, you're going to need admission into that second park as well as a dining reservation. And you're going to have to leave the first park at least an hour and a half in order to allow for travel time getting into the next park and getting yourself to the restaurant before your reservation window opens. So it's just some of that kind of thing. And yeah, the apps are great, especially with making those dining reservations and that kind of thing. But you have to know how everything else works. And I was joking with a client earlier this year and said, there should be a university somewhere that offers a PhD in Disney planning because it about takes that anymore. The second misconception is, don't you just book hotel rooms? The answer to that is no. When we do packages with my agency, we do everything. We book the resort, we book the ground transfers to and from the airport. We will help with airfare, park tickets, all of that kind of thing. The thing that has changed and the thing that disappoints me is that with the advent of the My Disney Experience app, it's not it's not probable for me to go in, wake up early on the day that a client's reservation window opens up and make their reservations based on the information that they've given me and what they want to do. The reason that I say that it's not probable is because it is possible, but they would have to give me their sign on for their My Disney Experience app. And that's just not something that I'm going to ask for. It's personal information, it's private information. So I will give them all the recommendations and based on their park plans and that kind of thing, sort of tailor recommendations to where they may want to be, where they may want to dine and give suggested times for that. But it is up to them to go in and actually make those reservations. The third most common misconception that I hear is you must go to Disney all the time, right? Well, living 1,000 miles from Walt Disney World, I can't go all the time. I get there as often as I can. Scott will tell you that. But no, I don't. I visit virtually in the sense of reading the news, checking out new releases, all that kind of thing. But no, I don't go all the time. And these past couple of years, we've been more often than we ever have before. And don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's not something that I have the opportunity to go all the time. And the fourth point that I want to make is the real value of working with an agent that specializes in Disney vacations or Disney destinations. So the big difference there is that we understand. I don't know that all of the agents that specialize in Disney vacations would consider themselves Disney adults, but that is kind of part of the special sauce, if you would, of why would you want to plan Disney travel and why would you feel so passionately about it if you're not a Disney adult. So, to go back to the real value is that we get it. We want your trip to be magical. We want you to have the best time ever. We want you to get in on the new stuff, but we want you to understand that there's a lot that goes into these vacations and it's not a cookie cutter trip. It's not going to look like your neighbor down the street. It's not going to be like it was when you were there 10 years ago. None of that kind of thing. We specialize what we do based on you, what you want to see, what you want to do. And we know Disney, and there's a lot to know, but we do it. All right, so let me go ahead and share with you some favorite memories that I've had during my tenure as a travel planner. My best or most heartwarming client story. I would have to say that so this goes back to what I was saying about being available at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. I had a client that was headed towards Walt Disney World and they were stopping in Tampa to visit some family. So their flight was heading into Tampa. And I got a text when they got to their connecting flight that something wasn't going right with the airline and they were having to get redirected to refuel the plane because there was some weather or something happening. I can't remember exactly. But it meant that they were going to miss their connecting flight into Tampa. So I did get a hold of the travel insurance company and the airline and got them booked into a hotel at that Midway airport so they wouldn't have to sleep in the airport. They had two semi young kids. I think their daughter was 6, maybe, and their son was maybe 10. So, and who wants to sleep in an airport? But we got them into a hotel. We got them transfers back to the airport the next morning, and they were on the first flight out. So that was I handled all of that in the time that it took for them to land at that airport. So by the time they got to that airport, everything was taken care of for them. And that's probably my best client story because it was just it's like this is what I do. This is what I love and they know 100% that I'm going to take care of them, which does my heart a lot of good. The funniest or weirdest planning request? I don't know that I have a funniest or weirdest planning request simply because if somebody requests something, I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. And that's their jam. I mean, if that's something that they need or want on vacation, I'm going to do everything I can to make it, make it happen. And it's not weird. It's not funny. It's just what they do. So it's what I do. And then the most memorable personal Disney moment that keeps me inspired. And we've said this on the podcast before. I would have to say that it was the cruise where our friend Cuba went to the other end of the ship to get me some watermelon for a cocktail. That experience set some magic for me that I'm never going to forget. And I want to help people have that same experience of that level of magic because it's there. And if I can help somebody achieve that and feel that, I'm going to do everything that I can. And that's why I do what I do. Because yes, you can plan a Disney vacation by yourself. Lots of people do every single day. But I'm I need to say this carefully. I don't know why they would do that, especially when they could work with someone like me. I don't charge anything above the cost of their vacation. So they pay for their trip. That's it. I earn a commission from Disney directly. It's nothing that I pass on any expense or anything like that to my clients. I do this because I want them to have a magical vacation. I want them to experience things like what we experienced with Cuba. That's it. Long and short of it. So if you're thinking, "Hey, yeah, this is great. I want to do this. This is something I love Disney. I think I would be great at this. So what do I need to do to get started? So the best first steps I can advise you to get started is reach out to someone like myself, have a conversation about what you're expecting of this position, what they're expecting. Try and find a mentor. Jane Ellen was an amazing mentor of mine, and she set me up for success in running my own agency. And I will say that every single day for the rest of my life. She was an amazing mentor. Find yourself a mentor if this is something that you're interested in. If you are, if you get yourself aligned with an agency that is truly focused on your success and not just making you another number, you will find that mentorship. And if not, there are others out there. Recommended training or host agencies, mine. Reach out, give us a call, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, whatever. I'm happy to have those conversations. There's no obligation. I'm not going to, require that you sign a contract even to reach out and talk to me. Just let me know what questions I can answer. I'm more than happy to help. And then if you decide that you want to work with me, fantastic. We can talk percentages and all that when we have that chat. Personality traits that help you succeed in this niche, as you would expect with Disney, a lot of it is attention to the details. There are a ton of details that you need to consider when doing this, and you need to be on top of it. You need to be organized. You need to be responsible. Again, you're dealing with people's money, you're dealing with people's time, and yes, travel insurance for the clients and errors and omissions insurance for you as an agent are important things to have. That's why I provide it for my agents. But there's a difference in between making an honest mistake and just being careless. I could go on the diatribe about that, but I won't. Again, it's so important to be organized, attention to detail. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be willing to pick up your phone at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night and say, yes, how can I help you? I know you're traveling. How can I help you? And also, you have to want to make magic for your clients. Like, no, we don't work for Disney, but we've got a partnership. And if I can provide magic for my clients when they're in the most magical place on earth, again, that's my job and that's why I do what I do. All right. So I've yammered on enough about this, I think. The thing that I make or that I find the most rewarding in this position is not the money. It's definitely not the money. The money's okay. It's not enough yet for me to make it my full-time job. That is my goal. But it's not the money. It is getting feedback from my clients after they've come back, saying when they come back that they had the best trip of their life and those kinds of things. That's what makes this job rewarding. If you are interested in planning a trip, I would be more than happy to help. Again, we can go as far as I will send you some quotes on pricing. There's no obligation at all. It's completely up to you. And again, I want to make your trip the best it can be. If you want to think about maybe becoming an agent and you're looking for a host agency, again, I would be willing to talk to you about that. I am in the process of actually building and launching a website for my company. But for now, you can find me on social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram. My company is called Minx Cruise and Travel, and you should be able to find us by searching either one of those. Drop me a message, shoot me an email, reach out through the podcast, whatever you want to do, and we'll talk about it. Thank you so, so much for listening. As always, it's been a pleasure to be here with you. We've got some great things coming up, including a Star Wars extravaganza that you won't want to miss in a couple of weeks. So be sure to listen for that. But for now, as Scott always says, there's always a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and we'll see you real soon.